Hey guys, and welcome to Aussie Reviews. As the title suggests, what I'm going to talk about is suicide here in Australia. Now, roughly about 8 people a day die from suicide here in Australia, and considering we don't have a large population compared to a lot of other countries around the world for our, area size of land, it's still a high enough rate to certainly get attention. And, obviously there's various community groups and everything that have been established and set up to try to help people who are suicidal. The reason I'm doing this video is, it's something I guess I wanted to talk about in general for some time, but today was sort of the tipping point for me because, I was told that a friend of mine of over 20 years has committed suicide. He's left behind a family, a couple of children, things like that. It's certainly not, it's not pretty. And I can assure you from, having seen suicide firsthand, it's certainly not something that I wish anyone to have to deal with naturally. So, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you out there who right now, if you're watching this, will think, my brother or my sister or cousin or a family friend or just some friends in general. You'll know someone possibly who is suicidal or who has had a family member suicide. So, it is quite distressing because it leaves a real, legacy and not a good one, behind, because, obviously if you leave children behind, those children then have to grow up without their dad or their mum. If you're even a brother or a sister, there's a lot of heartache and pain that gets left for that family. I'm sure we can all agree with that. So anyhow, what I want to touch on is I believe that personally that suicide is very much an environmental thing. And what I mean by that is you are a product of your environment. So if you're unhappy at work, you're unhappy with your living arrangements, all that sort of thing, I believe that has a very big impact on, depression, suicide, that sort of thing. Now, before I go on, don't think for one moment I'm a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm not. I'm always been a very practical person, and I just call things the way that I see them through my own experiences. So this is what I want to talk about in this video. Now, I've had quite a few, friends come over to my farm over the years. They'll come out with their kids or their wife, partner, that sort of stuff, right? And what I find a really interesting thing is when they come to the front gate and they come onto the farm, a lot of the time I call it city mode, because they come out and they're in that mode and they're high stress. They might sort of snap at one another. Even though they don't openly mean to, they're just in that high stress environment, that they have in the city where everything's sort of go, go, go. They might have very stressful jobs, that sort of thing. And all those things, can compile and obviously lead to depression, suicide, and so forth. Not, in every case, but certainly it can happen. So what I find interesting is I always try to almost convert them, so when they come here, they actually have an appreciation for freedom and back to basics concepts. So what I usually do is, people will come over and I'll say, well, look, let's cook up something on the open fire there, but we'll go for a walk around the farm, and there's a couple of lookouts on the farm that I'll take them to, and they can just take in the nature and stuff. When we're walking around, sometimes I'll see koalas in the trees and different bird life and all that sort of, natural, environment without, vehicles and all the things that you have in the cities. And what I find is by the time I say, well, look, let's get, some firewood and we'll start the fire. And I'll get them all involved, everyone can pick up some firewood and we make that fire, and then all of a sudden, you're just sitting there, you're just looking out over the view on the farm and, cooking up a couple of steaks and some food there on the open fire. And I start to see that, that deep breath and that almost sigh of relief as I watch you know, people starting to relax. And I had a friend in particular that had come over recently with his partner and a couple of kids, and I noticed how even the kids were, you know, happy because they just had a heap of room to run around and just be kids, you know, and just play. You know, like they'd play with Hank would run around with them, and, you know, while the mum and dad would sit there and just enjoy the view, have something to eat, and just have that back to basics experience, I guess. So that's where I'm coming from, where I think that, you know, suicide is very much an environmental issue, as in, you know, people who change their environment to do something that they really like and just appreciate those basics and the back to basics concepts, I think goes a long way. As I say, look, I'm not a trained psychologist or psychiatrist, but I believe that it has a very big influence. I mean, it's kind of like how a lot of people in the city really enjoy like meditation and all that sort of thing. Well, what are they trying to do? They're trying to go back to basics, aren't they? They're trying to basically like connect, whether they believe in connecting with the universe or nature or whatever it is. You know, that's every day here on the farm. So, yeah, so I guess, guys, where I'm going with this whole video is, you know, naturally to bring to people's attention that, you know, suicide is a big problem. And I believe that very much it's environmentally caused, but I would like to do my part, I guess, in talking more about it and putting it out there to say to people, well, you know, if you have a family member or you even suspect that there's early warning signs of like depression and so forth, you know, do something about it. Don't just let it fester and just grow to such a point that it becomes, you know, that bad that it's basically not curable. And next minute, you know, that family member is attempting or does actually, you know, commit suicide. So, you know, whether that be you just simply make the time to grab your dog, go to the beach, have a walk, or, you know, get out and just do some hiking. You know, there's so many areas that you can do that here in Australia, and just go for bush walks and all the rest of it. For those people who, and I only say this because of the amount of family and friends that I've had come to the farm here, and every single one of them have just said, Ozzy, like, you know, like, I really would just love to have what you have here. You know, and it's like, well, why don't you make that happen? Like, you know, it's not unachievable. You know, whether it, I mean, you don't have to be on a few hundred acres like I am. Like, you can be on a smaller block. You can be on like 5 acres, for example, and still have a reasonably good lifestyle where, you know, you've got more privacy than what you've got, you know, if you were living in an apartment. And still be able to get out there, you know, have a bit of a camp fire going, you know, grow your own veggies, that sort of stuff, you know, get back to basics. I really think, guys, the way that the world is going, you know, everything is just going towards, well, one, control, and we see that, you know, with the whole COVID stuff, with all the cashless society, the big push for like big brother, big brother, big brother. And generally, you know, human beings, I find, you know, don't respond well to that, as we've seen in the news. You know, there's a lot of people that don't like that, and for good reason, because people in general enjoy privacy and they enjoy their freedom. So, you know, what I'm saying is you can get into that without it costing you the earth. You know, a lot of people have houses in the city. Well, you know, consider selling your house and moving that little bit further out where you can have that bit more freedom, a bit more space, you know, to do what you want to do. So, yeah, guys, look, perhaps a pointless video, but maybe someone who's watching this may think, geez, you know what, so-and-so in my family or so-and-so who's a friend of mine, you know, they've been pretty down lately. I might actually just turn up and get them outdoors and get them back to basics, because I really believe as human beings, like, that's what we're meant to do. You know, we're meant to be out there gathering like firewood, starting a fire, having family and friends around the fire, you know, just chatting, laughing, that sort of thing. You know, I really don't think we're designed to be cooped up in an apartment, or even, you know, even a house on a small suburban block somewhere. we're just not designed for that, guys. You know, whether people like it or not, we still have that in our DNA to go out, to, you know, to hunt, to gather, to do all those things that human beings have been doing for thousands of years. So yeah, take time to get back to that. Take time to get out and enjoy being back to basics. That's all I've got to say, guys. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. So till next time, we'll catch you then.